Michele from Not Too Shabby, and this is our Fix It Friday series. And today we're going to fix the tabletop of this cute little side table that was painted about 5 or 6 years ago. A customer brought it in wondering how to get these little subtle water rings out of it, and also the chipping that happens. One of the big arguments that some people have against wax with Annie Sloan paint is that it's not durable. And in fact, the wax is super durable. If you build it up with 2 or 3 coats, you're gonna have a really durable finish. But if you don't do that and you're rougher with your furniture, it's going to wear down a lot faster. However, there is no other product that I am aware of on the face of this earth that you can fix except for wax, even as much as painting over it. So we're gonna do a really light fix-it job on this table. We're gonna clean up some of the edges, we're gonna clean up this chipping right here, and we're gonna move out these water rings. And to start, this is old white, and I know old white, when this was painted, is different than the color old white is today. So we're gonna have to actually mix old white from 2018. And if you don't know what that color mix is, you're gonna wanna check down in our other videos on YouTube and Facebook, and Instagram as well, because I have the color ratios and the color mixes in those videos. We're gonna start by doing a light sanding, and we don't need to sand this for the paint to stick, but what I wanna do is I wanna sand out any loose paint that maybe like right here is gonna chip off. I'm also leveling it a little bit so that the finish is a little more even. So that loose paint's coming off just a bit. If the paint doesn't flake off super easily when you're sanding it, it's likely gonna stay down when you paint over it. We're getting loose paint off of it though. Okay, so that took no time at all. Once you sand it, we wanna rinse off all the dust and residue. So I just have a bottle of water. There's no chemicals or cleaners in it. It's just straight up water. My paper towels. And I'm getting that residue off. And also cleaning it a little bit. And now comes the fun part. Okay, so I have my paint. Let's say hypothetically, you were touching up a table or a dresser that you did, and you just want to touch up a spot like this. You don't need to paint the whole thing. What you're gonna do is you're gonna touch up that spot right there and then feather out the paint so that it blends around. And I'm gonna do that on this table. You notice that the color is a little bit different. You see how much brighter the fresh paint is? And that's because this table had a dark wax, although a light dark wax, a dark wax finish on it. So we're gonna actually redo that finish when we're done painting it. But I'm gonna give a really light coat of paint on the areas where it doesn't really need too much paint. Right here. Painting furniture is a lot like doing your makeup in that you don't need to be super aggressive in how you paint. We like the phrase, get it on your brush, lay the paint down, and then leave it there to dry. You don't want to overpaint it by overbrushing it. And you also don't want to underpaint it by not getting enough paint on. Even though this is a touch-up job, I'm not worrying too much about the direction I'm painting. I'm going to cover the whole piece, but it's going to be lighter in some areas than others because the need for paint is a little bit heavier where that wood was chipping off. Not the wood, but the paint was chipping. Keep in mind, this table had wax on it. It actually took one full coat and then a really light touch up where some of those spots were that we saw in the very beginning to fill them in. We've got a nice clean surface. You can tell when you look close that it didn't fill in coverage like if you were painting it for the first time. You can see where the white's a little bit more saturated in other places. It's not something that I'm too concerned about because we're going to be adding our wax with a little bit of dark wax to blend it in. So just like any other piece of furniture, when we wax, we start with clear wax. And this I like to massage and move around. I'm using the Annie Sloan small wax brush. And if you notice, I'm putting wax on the sides of it and using the angle of the brush so that the shape stays really nice and pointy. I'm gonna work this in pretty quickly. I want my clear wax to stay nice and soft, so when I add the dark wax blends really well and doesn't stain it. Okay, I've got it covered now. I've got just a little bit of dark wax right here on my mix mat. I'm going to use the same brush because there's already some clear wax in it. My clear wax is also right next to my dark wax. So as I get dark wax, I'm actually going to pounce the two together so I get a nice blended wax. I'm going to start on the edges for it to blend in. So when you're fixing chipped finishes on other pieces of furniture, if you just use clear wax as your finish, you actually can spot fix it. Meaning I could just fix this one spot, paint it, touch it up, and then add my clear wax to it, and I'll have a nice clean finish. When you use dark wax on a piece, you have to be a bit more systematic in your approach because your dark wax, the blend has to be just quite right so that it looks the same as it did. This table in particular really did need more than a spot paint job. So painting it lightly on the entire surface was a much better approach than just doing a spot paint job. When you're wiping back your wax, you want to shift your rag or your paper towel, whatever you're using, so you have clean sections to work with. And now I'm going to go back over it with my sandpaper, just to stress it a little bit, just like it was on the edges. Nothing too heavy. And distressing a piece like this, I think is important because there's a lot of nick, stings, and scratches anyways. So I want to bring those flaws to life and give this piece a little bit more character. And then I'm going to follow it up with some clear wax. Keeping in mind that there's still a little bit of dark wax on my brush, so some of that color and that tint will come through when I wax it. And I think all in all, it took longer for the paint to dry than it actually took for us to fix the surface of it. And here we have it. A nice fixed tabletop that still has some of the beautiful dark wax shading, some of the character that it had without the water rings and without the chipped paint.